The spaceship streaked across the night sky like a falling star, its hull glowing red-hot as it plummeted toward Earth. Inside, Zorak, a lone alien explorer, struggled to regain control. His ship's systems were failing, and the alarms blared in his ears. He had been on a routine mission to study distant planets, but a malfunction had sent him hurtling toward this unknown world. With a deafening crash, the ship slammed into the dense forests of Transylvania. The impact shook the ground, sending birds scattering into the night. Zorak groaned as he unbuckled himself from his seat. His body ached, and his suit's energy levels were critically low. He grabbed a handheld scanner and stepped out of the wreckage, his glowing eyes scanning the dark, unfamiliar surroundings. The forest was unlike anything he had ever seen. Twisted trees loomed overhead, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky. A thick fog clung to the ground, muffling his footsteps as he moved. The air was cold and heavy, carrying the faint scent of decay. Zorak's scanner flickered, its readings erratic. He cursed under his breath. This planet's atmosphere was interfering with his technology. As he assessed the damage to his ship, a strange feeling crept over him. He wasn't alone. The forest seemed to be watching him, its silence unnerving. He activated his suit's defensive systems, a faint hum emanating from the energy shield around him. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees. Zorak spun around, his scanner picking up a heat signature moving toward him. The figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, pale man with piercing crimson eyes and a flowing black cape. His presence was overwhelming, radiating an aura of ancient power. "Who dares trespass in my domain?" the man hissed, his voice like ice. Zorak raised his hands, trying to appear non-threatening. "I mean no harm. My ship crashed, and I need help." The man's lips curled into a sinister smile. "Help? You are far from home, creature. This is my realm, and you are nothing but prey." Before Zorak could react, the man lunged at him with inhuman speed. Zorak's energy shield flared as the man's claws struck it, sending sparks flying. The force of the impact knocked Zorak off his feet, and he scrambled to regain his footing. "Impressive," the man said, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. "But your tricks won't save you." Zorak activated his suit's propulsion system, hovering just out of reach. "Who are you?" he demanded. The man's smile widened. "I am Dracula, ruler of this land. And you, my dear guest, are a curiosity I intend to explore." Zorak's mind raced. He had heard tales of vampires in his studies of Earth's mythology, but he never imagined they were real. Dracula was no myth, he was a predator, and Zorak was his next target. The two circled each other, each assessing the other's strengths. Dracula moved with unnatural grace, his eyes never leaving Zorak. Zorak, meanwhile, relied on his technology, his suit's systems whirring as he prepared for the next attack. The standoff was broken by a sudden howl in the distance. Dracula's smile faded, and he glanced toward the sound. "It seems we will have to continue this another time," he said, his voice dripping with menace. "But don't think you can escape me." With that, Dracula vanished into the shadows, leaving Zorak alone in the dark forest. The alien explorer knew he was in grave danger. He needed to find a way to repair his ship and escape this nightmare. But first, he needed to survive. Zorak spent the next few hours searching for shelter. His scanner picked up a faint energy signature nearby, and he followed it to an ancient crypt hidden deep in the forest. The structure was crumbling, its stone walls covered in moss and ivy. The entrance was sealed with a heavy iron gate, but Zorak's strength allowed him to pry it open. Inside, The air was thick with the scent of decay. The crypt was a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers filled with ancient artifacts and crumbling skeletons. Zorak's scanner detected a powerful energy source deeper within, and he cautiously made his way toward it. As he ventured further, he noticed strange symbols carved into the walls. They glowed faintly, pulsing with a dark energy. Zorak's scanner translated the symbols, revealing a history of the crypt and its connection to Dracula. The texts spoke of a nobleman who had made a pact with dark forces to gain immortality. He had become Dracula, a creature of the night who fed on the blood of the living. The crypt contained a relic, a silver dagger that could destroy him. However, the crypt was also booby-trapped, designed to protect the dagger from those who sought to use it. Zorak's determination grew. If he could retrieve the dagger, he might have a chance against Dracula. He pressed on, using his scanner to navigate the traps. He avoided pressure plates, dodged falling rocks, and disarmed ancient mechanisms with his advanced tools. Finally, he reached the inner chamber. The dagger lay on a stone pedestal, its blade gleaming in the dim light. Zorak approached it cautiously, his scanner detecting no immediate threats. As he reached for the dagger, a voice echoed through the chamber. "You are persistent. I'll give you that," Dracula said, stepping out of the shadows. "But you cannot hope to defeat me." Zorak grabbed the dagger and turned to face Dracula. "I don't want to fight you," he said, "but I will if I have to." Dracula laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You are brave, creature, but bravery alone will not save you." The crypt began to shake, the walls closing in. Dracula had triggered a trap, and Zorak had only moments to escape. He activated his suit's propulsion system and flew toward the exit, dodging falling debris. Dracula pursued him, his form shifting into a swarm of bats. Zorak burst out of the crypt just as it collapsed behind him. He landed on the forest floor, clutching the dagger. Dracula reappeared, his eyes blazing with fury. "You cannot run forever," Dracula snarled. "I will find you, and I will destroy you." Zorak didn't respond. He knew the final battle was coming, and he needed to be ready. Zorak retreated to an abandoned castle on the edge of the forest. The structure was in ruins, but it provided a defensible position. He spent the night preparing, setting traps, and fortifying the courtyard. The dagger was his only hope, but he needed to lure Dracula into the open. As dawn approached, Dracula arrived, his minions at his side. They surrounded the castle, their eyes glowing with malice. Dracula stepped forward, his cape billowing in the wind. "Your defiance amuses me," Dracula said, "but it ends now." Zorak stood in the courtyard, the dagger in his hand. "You're wrong," he said. "This ends with you." The battle began with a flurry of motion. Dracula's minions charged, but Zorak's traps took them out one by one. Dracula himself moved with terrifying speed, his claws slashing through the air. Zorak used his suit's energy shield to block the attacks, but the force of Dracula's blows was overwhelming. The two clashed in the center of the courtyard, their movements a blur of light and shadow. Zorak struck with the dagger, but Dracula dodged with ease. The vampire's strength was unmatched, and Zorak was quickly pushed to his limits. Just as Dracula was about to deliver the final blow, the first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon. Dracula hissed, his skin beginning to smoke. Zorak seized the opportunity, plunging the dagger into Dracula's chest. Dracula let out a final agonizing scream as his body disintegrated into ash. The minions fled, their master's power gone. Zorak collapsed to the ground, exhausted but victorious. As the sun rose, Zorak returned to his ship. He had survived the nightmare. But he knew he would never forget the battle. He activated the ship's systems and prepared to leave Earth, his mind filled with thoughts of the strange and terrifying encounter.